This is a football podcast, man. Meat, football, good. Man, we talk football. We eat burgers.
Welcome in to Scramble Drill, our Dynasty Football podcast where the season's over for fantasy, so we're not even talking about Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. We're just talking about football, which is a lot of fun for me and the rest of the guys. I am Ben, across from me is Landon and Josh. Fellas, how are we doing on this fine day? I see Landon drinking from the North Carolina mug with the UNC blue on. So I think you're doing okay, Landon.
This weekend I went 3 for 4 in teams I wanted to win. So, and really the two I cared about won, so could not be better.
I was about to say, you're having a run right now of fandom plus, I don't know, like you're getting the benefit of the games that everybody wants to see, plus on top of that, your Redskins, Commanders, whatever the heck y'all are now, you're just on an absolute run.
Can't say Redskins.
I have nothing. I don't.
What? That was a really long pause. I thought Landon was going to say something, and that just.
I thought about it, but then I thought we're going to talk about the game. I don't want to give all my Redskins takes right now.
Yeah, no, we'll skip through that. Josh, you doing okay? We don't really care. I'm just asking to be polite.
As it happens, I'm doing great. Nobody's in the hospital. Everybody's great.
The people would think there's some bias if I didn't ask.
Everybody's great. Great weekend of football. The national championship. It's okay. the national.
I'm not even an excited dude. I don't like either of the teams.
I do not care at all about the national championship tonight. We're going to be recording through the game, and I don't even know if I'm going to turn it on. I think it's the first time in years that I don't care at all.
I'll turn it on, but I'll probably be doing laundry the whole time.
Imagine Ben folding his clothes on his bed with the national. That's a wonderful image right there.
Yeah, it's not interesting to me. It's not interesting to me. The two most expensive rosters are in the national championship. Imagine that. Anyway,
You want to talk about
we're not
expensive
talking
rosters? We get into baseball, but we won't do that today. I got some takes there. But
you talking about the Dodgers?
I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about football. Let's get to football.
Okay, you're right. Landon, you still need you need your own baseball podcast. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You would not have a co-host. It would Landon be hosting 3-hour episodes by himself 4 to 5 times a week. That's what would happen.
Yeah. 4 to 5 times.
4 to 5 times a week. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we had last week when we during the wild card week, we had said we weren't going to do any coaching stuff. But a coaching change happened that's kind of a gigantic deal today. So it's kind of hard to put this one off a few weeks and talk about it. So we're just going to do it. Ben Johnson, it was broke today. He is going to be the next head coach of the Bears. After a lot of reports saying he was going to the Raiders, I did not believe a single one of them because that makes no sense to go to the Raiders. But Chicago is extremely interesting, and I know all three of us probably have some very interesting takes on this. So, Josh, I'll pass the torch to you. Where's your initial gut reaction here?
This is what I thought was going to happen the whole time. I don't think I ever said it out loud, but the Raiders buzz was so odd to me because it's the worst opening. And he's been passing on openings for like 2 years now.
But it goes against everything he said before. Like last year when he passed on openings, he said he wanted to go somewhere with a stable quarterback where he could potentially get a second contract. Like
I've been seeing reports like ownership is important to him, coach, quarterback, all that stuff. Like all X's. Everything. Every single thing the Raiders do not have it. So I never understood the whole Raiders buzz. That always
They got Brock Bowers.
Right. You have great tight end, but that's not going to win you playoff games, guys.
I beg
You gotta have more than the tight end. You can't have one good tight end and call it good. No, the Bears is really interesting because this is exactly the type of opening that you thought he was going to go for. I honestly thought it was going to be this one or the Jags, and I didn't know that he was going to sign up for the
Brother should have taken Washington
last year. Yes, but of the jobs available now, it was this one or the Jags, and I didn't think he was going to sign up for the Trevor Lawrence Reclamation Project. So this is interesting because obviously you have the quarterback, and Caleb Williams, I think, showed plenty his rookie year for you to believe he can certainly be a franchise quarterback. You might already believe he's a franchise guy. Very, very fascinating. I think the price hike on these weapons is going to be pretty wild. I think I even saw you say something today, Ben, that like Rome Odunze, Spike, I mean, it's going to go through the roof. Caleb Williams, same thing.
The next 8 to 9 months, you cannot afford Rome or Caleb or DJ Moore, honestly.
And I'm not sure how high I will get on them, but I do certainly think like this is the type of hire you want. It was either going to be a culture guy or it was going to be Ben Johnson, and I think the play caller was the right way to go here.
Yeah, and
for Caleb,
passing to you,
this is huge. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I was going to, like, pass it over to you, but, like, you and I had said, and I think mainly you had said earlier this offseason, like, it doesn't matter who they get to head coach, people will find positives, but that's, like, the biggest positive you could have gotten.
Right. I'm not 100% sure. So, Sean McVay won a Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan has gotten to multiple with once with not a great quarterback and then once with Brock Purdy, who has shown to be pretty good. But the offensive coordinator hires, they've made the offenses really fun and explosive, but they have not produced a lot of winning. I don't know how quickly and how big the Bears win, but man, Caleb Williams in Rome for fantasy purposes and DJ Moore, I love it. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't really have any ties to the Bears other than fantasy, so, like, I'm A-okay with this. The only thing that genuinely scares me is I got DeAndre Swift in a few leagues, and Ben Johnson has already gotten rid of DeAndre Swift once. Please don't do it again. Please don't do it again.
It's so funny that
It's so
funny you mentioned like the actual wins and losses part of this, which obviously it's why you hire the coach. You want to win more games. But I do kind of feel a little lukewarm in terms of, like, it's a good roster with the quarterback in place, but I don't feel like, like when Jim Harbaugh was hired, granted he's got a proven track record and all these things, but when he was hired, it was like, yeah, that's a playoff team tomorrow. Ben Johnson getting hired in that division, I don't know that I feel like that's a playoff team. I mean, they're still the fourth best team in the division. They just have a better coach going forward.
Yeah, I don't think they're playing. Did you hear my Herbert?
I'm sure it was some low blow, something terrible.
Did you say they don't have a quarterback?
Oh, no.
They don't have a quarterback. Obviously they do. I'm joking. I'm not that much of a
Josh, can you kick Landon off of this?
Yeah. But obviously Herbert he's the guy. But I don't know if this translates to winning. I mean, it'll translate to playoff contention, I think, but the offense will be a lot better. He's got to do something about the offensive line. That's something that, Kevin O'Connell, they lost their left tackle this year, and he was able to cover it. Sean McVay is unbelievable with offensive lines. It's something a lot of these guys can figure out quickly. If Johnson can do that, then, I mean, he had the two best offensive lines in the league are the Lions and the Eagles. And he had one of them. He built that, or was a big part of building that. So if he can do that in Chicago, then, man, that offense is going to be a lot of fun. It's good for my preseason. One of the takes I had was at the start of next year, Caleb Williams will be going ahead of C.J. Stroud in drafts. Depending on the type of spike he gets from Ben Johnson, that's going to be close. They're both going to be towards the end of the first, start of the second, I think. So that's probably about where they should go.
No, I was kind of interested in you bringing up the offensive line because that's where I was going to kind of go with it, is because if he wants to see similar success that he's had in Chicago, I have to imagine he's learned a pretty good amount from that, and he knows he's going to need to immediately improve the offensive line in Chicago, and I really think he will. So I think that's a good. And if it feels really good for Caleb to get a guy like Ben Johnson, I'm wondering if he's not a lot more of a project than we initially thought he was. So I'm wondering how quickly the turnaround will be there. But it's also hard to call him a project with Shane Waldron and then whoever took over play calling after him. So there's so many unknowns with Caleb Williams, but this literally was the home run hit. If they go get Ben Johnson, everybody spikes for fantasy. Everybody's going to be excited the whole offseason. And it happened. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk – I'll talk a little bit about Ben Johnson when we talk about the game on Saturday. But how do we feel about this on the Detroit side?
I still think they're a playoff team. Just with the talent they have and the offensive line, like that doesn't go anywhere because Ben Johnson's gone. The play calling's gone, and some of the scheme stuff they'll have to adjust, but the players are still there.
Yeah, Jamison Williams passing yards will go down.
that'll significantly go down. Let's go ahead and go into that. Go ahead.
For Dynasty, how does this hit you?
Gibbs does not change for me. Surprisingly, and maybe this is just me, Amon-Ra gets a little iffy because Ben Johnson was scheming up a lot of stuff for him. This is not by any means think that Amon-Ra is a bad player or anything like that, but I do worry just a touch maybe about if they're scheming him up as much stuff. So maybe that's just...
I have no takes. Because I feel like we need more information. Like, I want to see who they hire. Is it a promote from within? Do they bring somebody else in? If it's Shane Waldron, I'm out. I'm done. I'm just going to call my shot.
Stop
hiring. It's
going
to be depressing. Whatever it'll be. Anyways, I don't know. I think it's going to be less good than it was. But also this season, everybody was a smash hit. Jared Goff was great. Jamison Williams was a revelation. He could actually play. Amon-Ra was exactly what you thought he would be. And both Montgomery and Gibbs exceeded draft position. So it was great. So
granted 43 points happened in week 18, but Gibbs actually finished as the RB1 overall.
Ooh. Did he really?
He did in PPR leagues.
Wow.
Now, Saquon sat week 18, so there's that part, but still.
Yeah. Through week 17, he was number 3, though. Right?
Yeah, he's still top 3, yeah.
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 I'm much quicker to raise the Bears players' stock than I am to drop the Lions players' stock. I kind of feel like you are, Josh.
Yeah, that's probably the good take. That's a good take.
My take wants to be, Ben Johnson left. Now maybe they give more of a workload to Gibbs and stop using Monty as much, but I don't think Ben Johnson was the reason they were doing that. I think they just love David Montgomery. Dan Campbell loves him. So I think it's probably similar. Maybe next year you're looking at 60-40 Gibbs, Monty instead of 50-50. At a certain point, Gibbs is just so good you have to. You've got to give him more snaps. But I think Monty's still going to be a big part. I think he's still going to score touchdowns. The offense is still going to be good, and I'm much quicker to elevate the Bears than I am to lower the Lions.
No, I think that's a smart take. That's the way you probably should be looking at it. Do we want to just go ahead and get into the Lions Commanders game? Landon is excited.
Let's do it.
Excited for this one. This is man. Let's let me and Josh go first, so you can let Landon get the build up and intensity going. I really thought the Lions were going to win. I'm happy the Commanders won. Like I had no dog in the fight either way. Like I love the Lions. I love the Lions players. I'm also a really big fan of Jayden Daniels. I think he's awesome. I like their coaching staff. I like everything the Washington is doing. So it was kind of just a fun game. for me to watch and see. I hate for Jared Goff how that went. I mean, I really think after he got his bell rung, he was kind of seeing some ghosts. He was a little fuzzy, so I don't know if necessarily it was him playing bad. Well, he played bad, but he got killed on that run.
He hadn't been hit like that maybe ever. Maybe ever.
That is, I said it in our group chat. That's the hardest you can ever hit a quarterback anymore on a turnover when they're trying to make a tackle. That's when you can hit them. It should have
been a penalty too. Like he hit him in the head. That was helmet to helmet. It should have been a penalty.
It was right on that line where you're like, if somebody wants to call it, they can, but if they're not really into it, they won't. It was right there though.
I mean, bro planted the crown of his helmet into Goff's mouth. I mean, that golly.
Yeah, I come out of I am surprised on the one hand, and yet I am not surprised in the least on the other, because the way that this was going to happen was Jayden Daniels plays great, the Lions defense sucks, and which that is exactly how it played out. All these injuries, the defense just was not up to snuff. The thing that was surprising, even though we have seen it this season, the thing that was surprising was the turnovers. Like, the Lions offense was moving the ball, except they just turned the ball over. And there were some inexplicable turnovers. And yet at the same time, we've seen that happen this year in a game that they won where Goff threw 5 picks in the regular season. And so it's like the least surprising.
There's a difference in those two games, though.
Yeah, it's different. But it was the least surprising game I think I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Before we let Landon fully take it away, I'll say this. When Goff threw 5 picks against the Texans have not played well on offense, and the Lions defense was fully healthy. So it was kind of just a slugfest. And I know Landon's going to have some takes on Jayden Daniels, but I will say this. Jayden Daniels is like by far the QB I trust the most in the NFC. It's not even close right now. If the NFL redrafted today, I genuinely think Jayden Daniels is pick 5. The way things have gone.
Well, yeah, so
like Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Jackson.
The thing with the NFC is that you have had a lot of good teams and like good quarterbacks, but like it's a team thing. You have not had dominant quarterbacks that you can just sort of hang your hat on. They're going to make the playoffs every single year, be in it. Jayden's the first guy in the NFC in probably,
since Aaron Rodgers
probably
was like prime.
Where that is the guy, the face of the conference, if you want to put it that way, where he is talented. There's some sort of thing between his ears where he's clutch as well and efficient. My God, is he efficient? And he also just
he doesn't make mistakes.
He doesn't, and he also happens to be like 85% as athletic as Lamar Jackson. So there's that part of it too, which is just you can't game plan for it. He's incredible. So yeah, he is. Golly,
Commanders fan is getting giddy over there. Let's Landon go for it.
I have a lot to say about this game from both sides, but I'll talk mostly about Jayden Daniels. He's the greatest rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL.
No argument.
I don't have all the NFL lexicon history in my head like I do baseball, but I would say he's got to be approaching the greatest rookie ever, any position. I mean, I know there's been great rookie running backs, great rookie defensive players, but, dude, we won 4 games last year. We won 4 games, and we are in the NFC Championship game. That doesn't even it doesn't even compute with me. He's the best player in the NFC. You have to say that. Even if you don't believe it, you have to say it. There's no player in the NFC you trade him for. So, that kind of means he's the best player. This game, there's a certain time there's big upsets when, like, crazy things happen and one team just gets out to such a big lead and the other team, like, forces everything, and that's how these upsets happen. That's really not the case with this game. I went back and rewatched it. So this was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. This was not like we weren't up 20. Like, it looks like that because it was such a crazy game and so much stuff happened. And in the fourth quarter, it was a 3-point game. And, again, we just continue to trust this guy on 3rd and 4th down. And there were big like, you look at the final score, and it's like, man, it was kind of a blowout. But there were still such big moments in the game, such big 4th downs. And it says, you look at the stats, we were 3 of 4 on 4th down. Well, he was 3 of 3 because the one was the Marcus Mariota.
What was that?
Whatever that was.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but that was ridiculous.
I lost my mind because I was I lost my mind because I was sitting with a buddy. I was watching it with a buddy, and I was like, let your best players make the decision. That's football. That's what football's about. It's not about matchups. It's about the best players in the biggest moments. And I'm like, why are we letting Marcus Mariota do this? The rest of the game would go to Jayden. He picks him up constantly, other than the 1 4th and 2, which was a massive point in the game where they had 12 men on the field. That was a disaster. Yep. I think you saw today this team's not. I think we had the 18th ranked defense in the regular season. I mean, Terry McLaurin is the 12th best receiver in the league. He's far and away our best weapon. The offensive line's average. Dan Quinn, I mean, he's obviously turned it around, but he was the last coach to get a job.
Is he coach of the year? He's got to be coach of the year.
No, it's a regular season award. It's probably going to be Dan Campbell or Kevin O'Connell, I would guess. But I think you saw what showed me the greatness of Jayden Daniels. I'm not going to get into all the individual plays because he made a lot of good ones. But you saw Jared Goff press, and you saw Ben Johnson press. And it was not because of the defense that was in front of them. It was because they looked across the field and they said, with the defense, our defense the way it is, number 5 can beat us. And we saw Ben Johnson get cute. I will say the pitch to Monty to the shovel pass to Amon-Ra is one of the most clever plays I've seen in a long time.
That's brilliant.
I've never seen that before. That was brilliant. I was like,
and the fact that they did
he can absolutely do that in Chicago with like DJ Moore and somebody like that. Oh yeah. He can make
the
that
pitch
he was
to
in his bag.
Jameson when you've got
you
Teddy Bridgewater in for a couple plays. Wow.
Yeah. As soon as I saw the pitch to Jameson, I looked at my buddy and said, this might be a touchdown. And it was. It was a touchdown. By the way, there was an egregious block in the back on that, but they didn't call it. But it's fine. But I mean, they looked across the field and they said, he can beat us. In my life, we have not had a player on the Commanders that you can say that about. In my life. We've never had. The Commanders have the best player in the NFC. I never even had a thought that we could have. I didn't even know it was legal. Part of me thinks they're not going to let us. Part of me thinks they're not going to let us in the stadium on Sunday because they're like, you guys don't belong here. Like, you guys, y'all don't get to come to these games. But they looked across, they pressed. Jared Goff got tight, and I think it was because he thought, man, we got to score. I mean, Jayden Daniels scored 38 points. And you look at the stat line, he was better than the stat line. The stat line's like 299 passing yards, 50 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. No, they punted one time in the first drive of the second half. They punted. But, again, the Lions had a lead with 6 minutes left in the first half. It was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. This was not just like, it was weird in the line. He just kept making plays, and there's nothing they could do. Here's my question, and this is a question I've listened to a lot of sports talk today, and I haven't heard anyone ask this. But I think I know my answer, and I think it shocks me. Take Jayden Daniels off this team. How many quarterbacks in the NFL have them in the championship game? I think my answer shocks me. I think 3. I don't think Lamar has him.
I don't think Burrow would have him there because I don't think Washington is a much better team than Cincinnati is. I think they are – like Washington's roster to me is very, very average, and Cincinnati – it's like a slightly better defense. It's a slightly less leaky defense.
Let's not knock Joe Burrow because
it's not a knock.
Joe Burrow has done things that –
it's not a knock.
99% of other quarterbacks
It is not a knock.
I think about the team Joe Burrow got to the Super Bowl. I think
my man carried that team
better. They were better offensive weapons wise. Washington probably has a little bit better offensive line. The Bengals could rush the passer better that year, but the overall defense is probably close. Yeah. And Burrow got him to the Super Bowl, so I think he could. I don't think Lamar gets this team. I don't think we're in the NFC Championship game if Lamar's the quarterback. I really don't. Allen and Mahomes, I think, could have. But it's a crazy thing to think about.
It is wild. Yeah.
But I'll leave it there.
And you mentioned the Marcus Mariota thing. I think you could almost say the same thing about the Jameson Williams pass too.
You definitely could. That's what I mean by Ben Johnson was pushing.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by Ben. He got a little too cute there. Wow.
And like the wide receiver, like they're never going to just be smart and throw it away. Like they're always going to throw it into triple coverage.
They're trying to make a play.
Yeah. Josh was making this point on for our defensive perspective. We couldn't stop him. The game plan had to be Jayden's got to be out of this world, and we got to have turnovers because we're not going to make them punt. We're not going to. That's not in. We don't have that in the realm of possibility for that matchup. And they made turnovers. They turned the ball over.
And that is the surprising part of it is like the Lions outside of the scratch your head, what are we doing turnover plays, like they pretty much got on offense what they wanted. They just couldn't stop Jayden, and they turned the ball over. And ultimately, if you're trying to package this game into like its simplest form, that's what it was. You couldn't stop Jayden. You turn the ball over, game over.
And that's one of the reasons that the Luvu block on Jared Goff, I don't see as that big of a deal because we were going to get the ball at the 20.
Scored.
What do you think?
No, I don't think that changes the outcome. Yeah, I do think it should have been a penalty, but I don't think it changes the outcome.
God, it definitely woke him up.
He got partially put to sleep on that playoff.
He learned a lesson.
But Jayden can do. I am not willing to put him truly in that category with, I would say, the big four just yet. I would say Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow are the big four. But what he's in, and I guess one of the reasons I'm putting him as like the best quarterback in the NFC is he does things similar to those guys, to where he just keeps drives alive no matter what. Like it is hard to make the Commanders go 3 and out with Jayden Daniels out there. He stays on the field, and it is a nightmare for defenses.
He picked up a lot of big third downs, and I'm not saying he's better than Lamar. What I'm saying is I don't think we're in the NFC Championship if Lamar's the quarterback. I really don't. But so he hasn't proven enough to be put in that class. But
here's the other thing too. C.J. Stroud takes the Texans last year to the divisional round. They get clapped by the Ravens. And, like, great rookie year. Everybody goes, okay, there's a stud. The thing with C.J. Stroud last year was, in terms of real football, it was like, yeah, but he can be great. Good for the Texans. They got a quarterback. But then he's got to go beat 1 or 2 or 3 of Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes every single year to get to the Super Bowl. Who does Jayden have to beat? In the playoffs, when it comes down to it, it's what he's going to have to do on Sunday. He's got to beat Jalen Hurts. It's probably going to be...
No, he doesn't. He's got to beat Saquon Barkley.
Yes. It is Jalen. The best running back in the NFC. He's got to go beat the running back. Or it's like Dak, Goff. I mean, these are not... It's a sort of thing where you can look up this time next year, and it could be the exact same thing because... What other quarterbacks in the NFC are going to be taking them down? There's no other. There's not like the grudge match, the boxing matchup sort of thing, where it's like 2 boxers duking it out. Like it's just. I guess that's the thing with the NFC. It's teams. It's not quarterbacks, and Jayden is the first big ticket quarterback to be in the conference.
Yeah, the only other quarterbacks that you could like genuinely say would be like Stafford is one of them, but Stafford's getting older.
Dude might retire.
And that's really it, yeah.
Stroud's path to the Super Bowl this year was Herbert, Mahomes, Allen. Good luck. I mean, good luck. Like,
Mahomes is the only quarterback in the NFL who can get through that. He's the only one.
Yeah, and all those rosters are better than his. And that was his path. Yeah, good luck. And, well, he's got a great – I was going to say all those coaches are better than his. His coach is better than McDermott, but – so AFC's tough. NFC is much more open. And I mean, we can talk about the next game because I'll leave it there.
Yeah, we could keep going on Jayden Daniels.
I could. He's
that dude. I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, there's a whole lot to say, but he is. Y'all got a legitimate guy. Okay. Yeah. The other NFC game. The one I was right about when we were predicting things was the Eagles and the Rams. And it was only going to go one of two ways. It was either going to be a Stafford narrative or it was going to be a Saquon narrative.
By the way, absolutely nailed it.
Yeah. It was a Saquon narrative. Saquon broke off 4 runs this year of 4 60-yard touchdown runs against the Rams.
That's insane.
What are you
the crazy thing, to the narrative thing, the Rams make it a game in the fourth quarter, and they had no business making that game close, and they somehow did, and they had a chance to win the game. And I just was thinking about what we said on the preview. It's like, if the Eagles win, it is going to be because of Saquon Barkley. If the Rams win, Matthew Stafford is going to pull the rabbit out of a hat. And by God, he almost did it. And it was still the sort of thing where Saquon has 200 yards and they still almost lost.
I think if that weather doesn't go bad, I really do think the Rams they'd get him. Stafford pulls it back in.
They could have.
But they were dropping passes everywhere. Like, even Puka was dropping passes.
What a game, though.
The footing was tough. Like, dude, Saquon, they looked like they were on skates trying to tackle Saquon. Once he got to the second level, the DBs they couldn't change direction, and he was gone. Saquon, I'll say this, and it's about him and it's about Gibbs. Those two are perfect combinations because they're home run hitters and they have the 2 best offensive lines. And so the offensive line takes care of the first level, and then once they get to the second level, oh my gosh. It could be a touchdown every play with those 2 guys.
Well, it's also like they're genuinely good runners too. Like, it's not because we've had super fast running backs in the NFL before who don't do anything because they're not that good. Like, Gibbs and Saquon can make their own place, not only running behind a good offensive line.
The last 60-yard run, Saquon makes a jump cut behind the line to hit that hole and take off. And it's the NFL. These athletes are crazy athletic, but the cut to get to the hole, the hole is right to the left side of the left guard. And he is basically running like almost an inside zone, jump cuts to the outside of the guard and takes off. And it's just one of those cuts where you're like, I know he can do this, but it was still like, my goodness, Saquon. Like, what, just a great cut, and then he's gone, and you can't get him.
It really seems like regular season and playoffs, it seems like running backs, the value of that position is going up based on what some of these guys are doing. They're seeing what Saquon has done, what Derrick Henry did this year, what Gibbs has looked like in the playoffs. And again, those are 3 of the best offensive lines in the league. There's a reason those are the 3 best running backs. But they're guys that once they get past that first level, dude, good luck linebacker, good luck safety. Like, I think that position, the value's coming back up because Saquon signed for a similar deal to Gabe Davis. Who's more valuable? What are we doing? I think that positional value is gonna start creeping up based on this year. At least I hope so.
Yeah, I think you can see.
Well, if you get a truly gifted runner behind an offensive line, that's when the game can actually change. Like, a good running back behind a bad offensive line, he can't affect the outcome of the game hardly. But the other way around.
And I think that is what you're seeing with the answer to teams that have the superhero quarterbacks is to have, like, if you're going to win these games, you've got to have another punch. You're not going to throw the haymaker of, we trot out one of the 3 best quarterbacks in football. If you don't have that, your counterpunch is the run game. And in these cold weather games, which that's what Philadelphia is doing this time of year, having an offensive line and, the best running back in football right now, that is your counter to when you have to play a team like the Commanders that have Jayden Daniels, that they're trotting out one of the best quarterbacks in football, one of these guys that can win you a playoff game by himself. The counterpunch is Saquon in the offensive line, which we are seeing now is very capable of winning you a playoff game, to the point that now people are saying, and I don't think they're wrong, Saquon is the best Eagle ever. Like, he's having the best season of any Eagle ever. And I don't think that is all that.
That's not a hard leap to make.
Yeah. Offensively.
There have been some very good Eagles. There have been some very good Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
offensively, certainly.
Brian Dawkins out there.
But but the Eagles' takeaway is, man, this roster is good. Like, Jalen Hurts, he had the 45-yard touchdown, which was awesome. They had 3 45-yard rushing touchdowns in this game, 45+. 3. If they had 3 45-yard passing touchdowns, that would be crazy. They were rushing touchdowns. The thing that scares me is Nick Sirianni. Man, he made some questionable decisions. And Jalen Hurts, once he got tackled funny, he had 3 horrific sacks. Sacks you cannot have. That took him out of field goal range, or when they're trying to burn the clock up right there at the end, he calls some weird bootleg play and gets sacked. That's gotta fix. They can beat Washington that way. They can't win the Super Bowl. They can't beat the Bills or the Chiefs that way. It's not even that he hasn't thrown for a lot of yards. That's not even it. It's that he's taking ridiculous sacks.
I will list off here some of his passing yard totals though from the past few games. They're nothing special. You go back to the last time they played the Rams, 179 yards. Baltimore, 118 yards. Carolina, 108 yards. He does have 290 against the Steelers, but then 131 yards, 128 yards. They're just not throwing the ball.
The Steelers were the one game where he was trying to throw the ball, and he came in the post game. Is see?
And it's not like
I saw a tweet that I really liked. That was Jayden Daniels is the only thing standing in between us watching Jalen Hurts throw for 120 yards against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
And it's not like it's not working. It's just that they're not throwing the ball.
They're not throwing the ball, but I'm telling you, once he got hurt, you could tell. I text immediately. At the second play after that, I was like, he looks hobbled. He looks hobbled. And can they beat Washington? Absolutely. They have an advantage everywhere, probably except quarterback. Every single thing other than quarterback, they have the advantage. And
theoretically, you could just ride Saquon and win that game. You give him 35 carries, you can win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Jayden's going to have to do similar.
Beat the Chiefs or Bills unless he plays better. They can't.
Jayden's going to have to do similar stuff to where he just keeps the Commanders' defense off the field, keep them fresh against Saquon. You cannot let them get tired facing Saquon.
He will have to put a cape on yet again.
Yeah, no. The formula for this week is Jayden's got to be incredible. You don't have to get to 45. We probably got to get to 30. And turn them over at least twice. And now that is one thing Jalen has not done. Jalen has not turned it over, which that's the reason the Rams lost. They turned it over. They had Stafford fumbled twice. Kyron fumbled, and did Stafford fumble once or twice?
I think Stafford fumbled once.
I'm trying to remember. Okay. I thought they had 3
but still,
turnovers. Maybe
2 turnovers on the road in bad weather.
Oh.
That's not going to. You're not going to win playoff games doing that. And I guess when we switch to the AFC, let's talk about the Chiefs first because we probably have a whole lot to say on the Ravens game.
Hoo-wee.
Yeah.
Do we want to make the jump now or anything else here with the?
Yeah, the Eagles-Rams game is the one I have the least to talk about.
I know a lot of people are talking about the refs for the Chiefs game, and
I have things to say about that Landon probably actually will agree with.
Well, I just want to get this out of the way at the top. I think if your takeaway from that game is something refs related, you're not watching the same game that I watched. Houston outgained the Chiefs by a lot and had no chance. This was a game where they were so outmatched that I know there was this backdoor cover at the end of the game, and I know it ends you look at if you box scored Hunt, you'd say, yeah, that's ridiculous. The refs played a factor in this game. They did not. I have zero belief that if all of those calls are flipped, that the Texans are winning this game. I can't see any conceivable scenario where the refs have any bearing on the outcome of the game. The Chiefs owned this game on both the lines of scrimmage. They dominated. And I know the final score does not say this was a dominated game, but in terms of playoff games in the NFL, that was about as dominant as you can get in a one-score win that I've ever seen.
No, I guess that's kind of where I was going to go with mine is I'll start with no, I do not think the two major penalties that everybody's talking about, they should not have been penalties. That late hit on Mahomes, the roughing the passer, was not a penalty. And then the other one, like helmet to helmet, was not a penalty. He didn't even touch his helmet. If you take those away, the Chiefs still win by 10.
Yeah, it's the same.
Like it's that they were just, and you look at the box score, like you said, the Chiefs are the best situational football team I've ever seen in my entire life. They don't make mistakes when they just don't make mistakes. They're not flashy. And I think that's where some people get, like, especially myself, get annoyed. Like, if Patrick Mahomes was out here throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and winning games, I honestly don't think I'd even be mad. Like, that's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. It's just he does everything he has to do to win the game, and that's it. That's what's so frustrating.
It is frustrating because you're like, we know the ceiling is very, very high. And I think I heard there was somebody talking about, like, they're almost having a competition to see what's the least they can do and still win. Mahomes has like 170 yards. And it really wasn't close.
Like, if he went out there threw two touchdowns to Xavier Worthy, another one to Travis Kelce, and, like, had a 60-yard completion to Hollywood Brown, like, I wouldn't even be mad. I'm like, that's insane. I used to not miss Mahomes games. Like, I never missed a Mahomes game. I was never, like, as big a fan as Landon is, but I didn't miss a Mahomes game because they were magic to watch. It's boring.
By the way, playoff Kelce confirmed. They put him on the shelf in the regular season. Yes. He's just an ancillary piece. Playoff time comes. Good luck. Good luck.
Been saying that all year. That all year. That's what he does. Yeah, a lot of things are true. Quarterbacks.
Also, last thing. The flop doesn't bother me either. In our group chat, a lot of people were mad about the flop. I don't care about that. Every quarterback does.
I don't care either.
So a lot of things are true. So the quarterbacks are the most protective. Obviously, the better you are, the more protected you are. You know who gets the most favorable whistle? I saw it in 3 of the 4 games this weekend. The home team. The home team gets the most favorable whistle. Most people watch the Chiefs, and most people hate the Chiefs. That's why the refs thing is such a big deal.
Calls. They are hunting those bad calls.
It used to happen to Brady. Like, everyone hated the Patriots because they got every call. And the Patriots actually served suspensions for scandals. The Chiefs haven't. Like, I get why everyone hated the Patriots. The Chiefs, people are just mad because they've won a lot. Like, and that penalty, the first penalty, it's on the helmet to helmet. He didn't touch his helmet. Here's the thing. I got 2 things on that. One, if you watch every game on Sunday, you will see
this
that
is the Will
called 5
Anderson
times.
one, right?
And
yes,
and 2, that's the most overblown penalty in the history of football I've ever seen. That happened with 7 minutes left in the first quarter. And people are like,
that's what I'm saying.
How are the Texans going to win? How are the Texans going to win this game?
If you take away both of those penalties, they still win by 10. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And my least favorite thing about Patrick Mahomes, I will say, this drives me crazy. And I am absolutely whatever the terminology is. I think the new thing we're saying is glazing. I am absolutely that guy for Patrick Mahomes. I will admit it. That I can't say anything. I am. The thing that drives me crazy, not necessarily the flops, because a lot of elite QBs do it. I do hate
like a 5-minute video of Josh Allen flopping.
Yeah. How he tries to maneuver the rules. I hate when he acts like he's running out of bounds and stops and then gets hit. The flop doesn't bother me. The stopping to manipulate the rules, and like what he did on the second penalty where he kind of ran around and you couldn't tell if he was going to slide and then kind of dropped at the last second.
Yeah, it's hard for the
I wish he wouldn't do that.
When they've already committed to the tackle and then you drop like that, I don't know what you're supposed to do.
I wish he wouldn't do that. That does drive me crazy. But, I'm glad Josh said it that way. They weren't going to win. How about, you know what the problem was? They had the worst special teams game I've ever seen in the NFL playoffs, and they couldn't pick up one blitz. Not one.
The last drive of the game.
No. Spags does it all the time.
The last drive of the game, they go 4 and out basically on that set of downs. First down, Chiefs show blitz, do blitz, don't pick it up, incomplete pass. Second down, Chiefs show blitz, do blitz, don't pick it up, incomplete pass. Third down, Chiefs show blitz, do blitz, and then I want to say it was an incomplete pass, and then fourth down, same thing. Show blitz, do blitz, sack. It's like, guys, max protect, something.
Like, if you want to be mad about the refs favoring the Chiefs, like, you've at least got to, like, have something for them. Like, have some tricks up your sleeve to try to beat the Chiefs. Don't let them do what they've done all season and then get mad when they beat you.
And Kymie Fairbairn missed, was it 2 field goals?
That still wouldn't have mattered. It still wouldn't have mattered.
That first one wasn't his fault. That first one, you can't kick a 55-yard.
Yeah, the wind grabbed it, took it.
He didn't have a chance.
Said no shot.
He didn't have a prayer. But the thing I hate about these days is, like, it used to drive me crazy with Brady. He would win a playoff game, and he would set some record and some milestone, and the conversation the next day was not about his greatness. It was about a call in the third quarter. Patrick, the rhetoric today should be Andy Reid, 300th win. He might finish number 1 all time. Travis Kelce, the greatest playoff weapon ever, and Patrick Mahomes, after next week, will have played in the same number of AFC championships as Week 1
That's
game.
insane.
If he starts the season, he makes the AFC championship game. It's never happened. The Patriots made 8 in a row at once, but not first thing, not first start. And no one's talked about that. Everybody's just like, oh, how are they supposed to win? They're getting penalties called on them in the first quarter.
They were never going to win that game.
Yeah,
I sent y'all a text before the game. It is more likely that Peyton Manning comes out of retirement and starts at running back for the Lions than the Chiefs lose this game.
Yeah.
The Ravens had a tougher call called on them this week. A tougher no call, or no, theirs was actually called in the penalty on Keon Coleman. Washington had a tougher no call on them. They got the Lions off the field in the first quarter. They stopped David Montgomery, and they call a phantom face mask. They called a phantom face mask. It gave them the first down, and they scored a touchdown. Like, my point is, there were bigger penalties this weekend than that. Yeah. But that's all anyone wants to talk about.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I don't want to hear anything about that PI against the Bills, because the Bills had a phantom holding call after Lamar threw that interception that killed their drive. So, like, that cancels out. That does not matter.
That's the point. Like, there's these calls all the time. It's just one team's kicked everybody's teeth in for 5 years, so everyone hates them. Like, if everything was the same except all the matchups, the Bills had won and they had 3 Super Bowls, no one would be saying anything about the Chiefs, and everyone would be saying all this about the Bills. That's the only difference, is they've won.
I'm sure that the Taylor Swift element has something to do with it. People, I don't know.
Dawson Knox would be dating Taylor Swift or something at that point.
Yeah. And I was baffled that the stat exists. If Patrick Mahomes starts an NFL season, he makes the AFC Championship. Nobody brings that up except Nick Wright. And everybody wants to talk about a freaking roughing the passer call in the first quarter. And you. But
don't give credit to him and
me. Nobody's listening to us, though, Landon.
I have a little bit smaller platform.
Nick Wright is not your co-host, Josh.
I've got a little bit smaller of a platform. But Mahomes, the stat line doesn't look great, but he's not.
No.
He couldn't have lost that game. There's no way he would have lost that game.
Yes.
He can lose next week. Next week he can lose. This week there was no chance. It was never going to happen. If the Texans would have been up 14
they still would have
going
won.
into the fourth quarter,
there was literally no possible scenario where the Chiefs could have lost that game.
Look, there's 2 teams in the NFL that now the Chiefs are probably going to win next week, but there's 2 teams in the NFL that are built to beat them. That is the Bengals and the Bills. Those teams are engineered with the sole goal of beating the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I thought, other than the kicking that field goal 55 yards into the win, I kind of thought DeMeco Ryans outcoached Andy Reid a lot of the game. Like, he had a good game plan offensively and defensively, He just didn't have the firepower. And then at the end of the game, they couldn't pick up a blitz.
It was bad.
That was the problem. Special teams was terrible, and they couldn't pick up a blitz at the end of the game.
The no weapons.
But I thought D'Amico Ryans.
No weapons hurt the Texans for sure. Like no Diggs, no Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Nico's elite, obviously, but if you've only got one weapon, you think Spags won't have something for that? You're dead wrong.
At Arrowhead, you think?
Yeah. No shot.
That's tough. That is tough.
I understand from the guy who's not a Mahomes fan. Like I'm very neutral, but I have to go against him because of you just a little bit. But like the neutral guy, I understand the penalties, like why people are upset. But it made no difference in the game. So.
Yeah, I hate that. Like the guys in our league, they know football, they watch football, and I really feel like they just see Patrick Mahomes as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think genuinely, I think a lot of people see him as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. When the reality is, if this guy retired right now, he would be at worst the second greatest player of all time, and no one sees him that way. I don't feel like people see him that way, but that's what he is. If he retired today, he's already better than Montana. Man, he's better than all of them. He's accomplished more than all of them. Like
I said, he had to hit 4 Super Bowls to be like even with Brady. He's probably going to do that this year.
Yeah, I just feel like people don't see him that way. I feel like they just see him. It's Lamar, Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes. They're all about the same, and it's like, I mean, if they end up accomplishing what he's accomplished, we can say that. But this guy, I mean, what he's done, no one's ever done. And I just feel like people don't treat him that way.
If Josh Allen somehow wins this Super Bowl and the next one, then you can put him in the conversation.
And at that point, he is a top 7 all-time quarterback. Right then.
Yeah.
Like Lamar's
he's getting
probably
there.
approaching a top 10 quarterback all time, but he's never won anything.
He's going to be in the Dan Marino conversation. Like one of the best to ever do it, but he never won.
Same amount of championship game appearances as Jayden Daniels, Lamar Jackson.
And he might win his third MVP in a couple weeks, which is crazy.
And he might. Yeah. So, anyways, but the last game, that's where we need to spend some time.
Yeah, let's go over we've already spent 50
I want to
minutes
try
talking about
starting
this
thing out this way. We talked about headlines going into these games. I want to know y'all's headline for this game. What is the headline for this game in your mind? Ben,
mine will surprise you.
Believe it or not, it's almost, I guess, I don't know if it's necessarily a headline. It's kind of a two-parter. I think Josh Allen had a very Mahomes-esque game to where he was not spectacular statistically, but he was very sound. He did everything he had to do. He made no mistakes. He just went out there, played, did what he had to do to win the game. Lamar Jackson lost this game. They had every opportunity to beat the Bills, but 3 turnovers sank them.
Interesting.
They were talking about, I was listening to somebody was talking about how, Lamar in the biggest moment, led them down there, and then Mark Andrews dropped the thing. I'm like, well, they've turned the ball over 3 times before that. It should never have come to that. It should have been Josh Allen trying to lead the Bills back in that game.
And I want to make a comment because people do this to Mahomes and it drives me crazy. People are not giving Josh Allen enough credit here. That would have tied the game with 1.5 minutes left and give Josh Allen the ball.
I was saying, and he had 2 timeouts. He had 1 minute and 30 seconds and 2 timeouts.
I just want to make it known. I hate when people do it to Mahomes because they said the same thing in other games. No, Josh Allen would have won the game. That game would have been won by Josh Allen. He deserves that respect. I know you give him that respect, but I need to say that for the game. I don't know why it is, and I like Lamar. I don't know why it is. I think he does get treated with kid gloves a little bit. He played fine for most of the game. He played fine.
They were moving the ball the whole game.
He's not had a great playoff track record. I thought this was not even close to his worst.
It was probably his
game.
best playoff game.
But at the end of the day,
no.
Well, I take that back. He has played
games
where they played inferior teams and they've thumped them in a game that mattered.
Actually, I like
in a game that was
probably
in a
against the Bills
matchup game.
3 years ago.
Matchup game, this was his best playoff game. But that's not also saying a lot.
Yeah. I thought so. I thought it was his best. But at the end of the day, in a game like this, He had 2 turnovers. Mark Andrews had 1, and Allen didn't. And that is the difference in these games. My headline for the current Bills would be the scariest version of Josh Allen ever. And he threw for like 100 and some yards. He ran for 40. This is the scariest version of Josh Allen I've ever seen. It is not throwing 100 touchdowns in the 13-second game. It is this. Because he's just doing what he has to do to win. And man, that is scary. Now, he's got it in him. He almost threw a lateral on the goal line the last second. He's got it. He's fighting so hard. He's got it in there.
Oh, when he was like looking at Amari Cooper, he's like, "You want this?"
There's a little Will Levis fighting to get out, but he suppresses it.
He suppresses it. You remember his first ever
No.
when he threw that lateral
Don't
over
throw
his
that.
head?
There's a little Will Levis in him. Will Levis has a little bit of
there's
Josh
a
Allen.
tiny little Will Levis in Josh Allen fighting to get out, and he suppresses it.
Let me stop the episode right now. Will Levis has a little bit of Josh Allen in him, except Will Levis has no ability.
We are going to make a rule right now. We do not invoke the name of Will Levis when talking about an elite player. Let's make that rule. Okay. How about he's got a little bit of.
I'm trying to think of a player who happens
He's got
to
a little
make
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. He's
Okay,
got
there we
a
go.
lot of Brett
There
Favre
we go.
in him. He's got a lot of Brett Favre in him.
Don't you ever do that again,
but
Josh.
Yeah, this I'm telling you, this Bills team, like they're a game away from the Super Bowl, and if they make it, they're going to win it. I mean, they're knocking on the door, and this version of Josh Allen is, because you know he's like Mahomes. You know he has it in his back pocket if he needs it.
It is scary when he doesn't need
He
it.
can just pop that off.
Yes. He's got it if he needs it. And if Andrews would have caught that and they would have had the 2-point conversion, Josh Allen.
My headline is,
I mean, we see it all the time with Mahomes. Is like a minute 30 and 2 timeouts. Oh gosh, yeah, they're going to do exactly what they need to. Like Allen was going down the field.
my headline was slim margins. It wasn't a Josh Allen was this, Lamar was this. Like, I thought the Ravens were not playing their best. Lamar still gave you flashes of, oh my gosh, he's so good. Like a 96-yard touchdown drive when you have to have it. That's what elite players do. It was a great drive.
That was great.
There's also an element of, Mark Andrews really killed you in this game. He drops a crucial 3rd down. He has a crucial fumble. He drops a 2-point conversion. Like
But Lamar also had 2 turnovers that were his fault that the Bills scored one off of.
There's that element too. But there's like, Lamar was not his very best. He gave you moments of brilliance. He was not his very best overall. Mark Andrews kills you, but he also has a few plays where it's like, yeah, that's still Mark Andrews. It's slim margins. In games like this,
you probably don't make it to this game without Mark Andrews.
Don't. But in games like this, you can't turn the ball over. And it doesn't even matter context. Like, it doesn't matter that Mark Andrews fumbled. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When it comes down to it, did you or did you not turn the ball over? It doesn't matter whose fault it was, context, nothing. You did end up turning the ball over. It's like a binary thing. They turned the ball over. The Bills didn't. They lost. And that's just pretty much what it comes down to. And in games like this, you just can't make the mistakes. And I guess that's why the Chiefs' run is so amazing, because they just don't make mistakes ever. And they end up winning these games because they are the team that makes the least mistakes over and over and over again. And Baltimore seems to make the mistakes in games like this over and over and over.
That's why Bills team
I thought that
probably
final.
won't. I was going to say this Bills team probably won't, but they're the most equipped to beat the Chiefs because they play the most like the Chiefs.
Yeah, if the Bills can play mistake-free football, I don't know
has the
who
ball
wins.
last.
I really don't. I think it's close to a pick 'em. I was going to say, I thought that final drive was Lamar's best playoff moment ever. And that Andrews fumble was crushing. To me, the Andrews fumble was more crushing than the drop pass. Like, they were driving a little bit. Now, again, I think Josh Allen would have driven right back down the field. He's got it in his back pocket if he needs it. He didn't need it, so he didn't do it, but I thought he could have. It's a tough one for the Ravens. This is a tough one because, man, it seemed like last year was the year
more than
they had a
some of the
home
others
playoff
after that.
game. Yeah, they had a home playoff game against the Chiefs last year. Didn't get it done. And then, again, Lamar's the media darling and didn't get it done this year either. And they were favored.
That was crazy.
They were favored in this game.
I don't know why Vegas thought it was a good
crazy.
idea to favor the Ravens on the road. Blows my mind.
Because I think the Ravens matched up really well with the Bills, and probably top to bottom, outside of quarterback, they were better in basically every phase. Like, they got an elite offensive line. I think the Ravens' weapons are technically better, although I do think the Bills' weapons play better into Josh Allen's skill set. So, kind of potato, pick what you're set there. But and I think the Ravens' defense is more talented than the Bills' defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ravens probably, if you're looking holistically at top to bottom rosters, they probably have the best roster in the NFL. But there's also this extra unquantifiable thing of like the Chiefs and the Bills have shown multiple times in games that you have to have. Like the Ravens kill teams just like the Lions did this year. They kill teams in games that are really not all that consequential in the grand scheme of things. But in games that you absolutely have to have, the Bills and the Chiefs both don't really make mistakes. They will, like the Bills got murdered by the Ravens in the regular season. That game didn't matter. In a game that you have to have, the Bills don't make mistakes, the Chiefs don't make mistakes, and for whatever reason, this is now like a multi-year thing. It's not just a Lamar thing, but the Ravens make mistakes that these other elite, top-of-the-line teams don't make.
And they also get away with what they do. Like when the Ravens beat the Bills in the regular season, Derrick Henry had like almost 200 yards. The only time they really leaned on Henry the entire game, that second drive of the first drive of the second half, I thought the Ravens were going to really start doing things. I'm like, oh shoot, they're going to lean on Derrick Henry this second half. That's a problem. And then they stopped giving it to him.
Yeah, I don't get it. They did the same thing last year against the Chiefs. Did the same thing last year. There was not one designed run for Lamar last night. I don't know.
Lamar is a gifted passer, but stop trying to make him play like Josh Allen or Mahomes. Do what he does.
Yeah, I was waiting for the 40-yard run at some point.
Like, I swear he wants to beat Allen and Mahomes at their own game, and he can't do it. He needs to do what he does.
This is a frustrating one. The more I'm thinking about it right now, this is a frustrating one for Ravens fans. I would be extremely frustrated with this loss because I don't think I would have picked the Chiefs over them or the Bills over them. I thought the Bills were going to win. I would have picked the Chiefs to beat them as well. But I don't think their rosters are far off. You said you think they have the best roster in the league. I mean, they're up there. They have the guy who
they had 9 Pro
Bowlers.
Bowlers.
First team All-Pro. He might win MVP. He might
9
win
Pro
MVP.
Bowlers.
Maybe it's just that they have like the pieces that are built for great regular season teams. And I don't know if it's a quarterback thing because going to get
they should be making it in the postseason.
They should.
Too. I'm like a good defense, elite run game, and elite quarterback. Like that wins you
100%. Going to get Derrick Henry was, I thought, the missing piece to this whole thing because, I mean, that the counter punch to these elite quarterbacks is having a run game. They did only get 20 yards out of Derrick Henry in the first half, and they were down 21-10. And then in the second half, they got him going a little bit more, and obviously it ended up being a close game.
Well, that first drive of the second half, like as someone who was pulling for Buffalo, I like sat there. I'm like, that's not good. If they're going to do that, they're going to win.
And I think what was it, like 170 yards rushing they ended up with? It was the most like perfect Baltimore stat line ever. Like that is every game you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, they have 170 yards. And I think they ended up with like 450 yards of offense, maybe something like that. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, they had 416 yards of offense. The Bills had 273 total. Imagine
winning a game.
And it's the same thing happened in the Chiefs-Texans game. The one team wildly outproduced the other one, but the sound, smart team just did what they had to do.
The Lions had more yards than Washington. Not a ton more, but they had more. They had over 500 yards of offense. They turned it over.
Yeah.
The the 4 teams remaining have played 7 playoff games. They have 0 turnovers combined.
That's wild.
That's how you win in the playoffs. You don't turn it over. You don't turn it over and you win.
These are legitimately the 4 most sound playoff teams that came into this. Fundamentally, they do everything right. Yeah,
that is crazy.
Fundamentally, all these teams do everything well.
There's also home teams in the playoffs are 8-2. The 2 losses, both Washington. They're the only team that's won a road playoff game this postseason.
I hope they make.
I think it's so crazy.
I hope there's 4 losses after this week. But
I think it's so crazy that when it comes playoff time, like people that talk about the NFL, they just turn it into who's got the better quarterback. Which, generally speaking, the better quarterback does come through.
It's what 90% of it is.
But it does. The turnover thing does matter. Like, and I know that's so obvious. Yes, turnovers matter. But like, when it comes down to it, it's not that Josh Allen played better than, like, you look on the stats, you say Lamar had a pretty darn good game. He just turned the ball over. Josh Allen was not flashy. Heck, Patrick Mahomes, not very flashy. They just don't make mistakes.
It's the same argument for MVP this year. It's the same argument for MVP. Lamar had the numbers, but Josh Allen played better.
I'm staying away from MVP stuff.
We got to rethink MVP. Yeah, we got to rethink
I think Lamar should win Offensive Player of the Year, but Josh Allen was the most essential cog to his team.
I just mean as a whole. As a whole, we got to rethink MVP. Like, if Lamar wins a third one, to me, you can't win 3 if you haven't won a Super Bowl. Call me crazy. You can't be the most valuable player if you get bounced every year before you're supposed to. You lose games every year, which you are favored. And every year you have basically your worst game of the season in the postseason. You can't keep winning MVPs. You just – I don't care if he throws 60 touchdowns and has 3 picks. You can't win MVP.
This is 2 years in a row. Last year I think their defense was better, but this year, like, still top to bottom, like Josh said, 2 years in a row, y'all have had the quote-unquote best roster in football.
To be fair, last year was far worse. Just because you never saw great. Like, there was never a flash of greatness from Lamar last year. You did get moments. And like that first drive of the game, they just a hot knife through butter. First drive of the game. And then the last drive of the game. Like, your first image and your last image of Lamar is, my gosh, he's good. It's the stuff in the middle, the detail stuff in the middle, where you're like,
It's the middle 45 minutes of the game, Josh.
I don't know. It's tough to analyze this game because you've got like the cold factor. You've got you still saw greatness and it just wasn't enough. Like, I want the takeaways from this game to be all positives. I don't really want to talk about the Mark Andrews element. I just want to come away from it and be like, heck, Lamar looked awesome. Josh Allen did exactly what he had to do to win. Like, I don't want to talk about the negative stuff because I think that takes away from the fact that, like, this was a great game. It was an extremely entertaining game, a cold weather game. Ryan Fitzpatrick took his shirt off pregame. It was great.
Fitz magic out there. Hold on, I got to sneeze now too. Dang it, Landon.
But we get what the people want. Actually, it was pretty split whether they wanted Ravens Chiefs or Bills Chiefs, but we get what I wanted. Bills Chiefs. I think they're the 2 best teams in the league. I've said all year. I've said the only team that can beat the Chiefs is the Bills.
Bills Chiefs does feel like what Golden State LeBron was for those several years in a row in the NBA. It's like, it's inevitable, it's coming, and these are the 2 best teams. I can't wait for it.
It's Yankees Red Sox of the early 2000s is what it is. That's what it is. It's the 2 best teams. They just happen to be in the same league in that case, conference in this case, and yeah, we'll see.
Brady versus Manning.
They're very similar teams. They really are.
If the Bills can't get it done this year, I don't think they ever will, because this is the team they mimic the Chiefs. They play like the Chiefs. Josh Allen is playing like Mahomes. He's putting up good numbers, not insane numbers, but he's doing exactly what he has to do to win the football game.
Yeah. I do think home field's a big deal. It was a big deal in the Bills-Ravens game. I think it's a big deal this time. I think it being at Arrowhead is, man, that's such an advantage. And
I almost wonder,
I'm excited
and this
for it.
might be a
it.
stupid take. I almost wonder if it's better for the Bills to be on the road because when they were at home against the Chiefs, I feel like they were tight, knowing like this is the one we should win. They can come in there with a little bit of like underdog mentality against the Chiefs this time.
Well, the media will not let the Chiefs be underdogs. Or the media will not let the Bills be underdogs. The media, all I ever hear is how bad the Chiefs are and how, yeah, they won 15 games, but they were close games. What are we talking about? That's all I hear. So the media will not let the Bills be underdogs.
Maybe I listen to it differently, or maybe I just view things differently. Like and I guess we'll move into, let's make some picks, I guess, about next week. Let's just do the Bills-Chiefs because we're talking about it. The way I view it is I truly want Josh Allen to win. More than anything else, I want him to win. I don't care what the media says, and the Bills should think about it this same way. I cannot pick against the Chiefs until they lose. I can't do it.
You can't.
I can't do it.
I agree.
I desperately want Josh Allen to get there. He is my favorite player. I think he can absolutely get into the Manning tier, like Manning, all of those elite guys. I think he's got that potential, and I think he will be one of those guys one day. I want him to do it, but he has to do it first before I can pick against the Chiefs. If he beats Mahomes this year, next year in the playoffs, I don't even know who I'm going to pick. It's going to be crazy, but he has to do it first before. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't want it to happen.
My playoff manifesto for picking games, if I've got one, there is only one rule, and the rule was established last year when the Chiefs went on this run that I don't know if people were picking them in any of the games.
Yeah, I established it at the same time.
They won them all.
Well, I thought, like, dude, with this Ravens team, they had the number one defense and Lamar Jackson. I'm like, with the way the Chiefs have looked, I think they can get them this time. And then they just got slaughtered.
And it didn't matter. And that is the rule. You don't pick, like, it doesn't matter the context at all. You pick Patrick Mahomes, and if you're wrong, you live with it. Because you just can't pick against him.
If the Bills beat them this time, that'll change next season, but
they were underdogs in every game but the Miami game last year in the postseason run. And they were underdogs in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. And they won them all. Trent McDuffie has never lost a playoff game. This is year 3. He's never lost a playoff game. Never lost one. Isaiah Pacheco never lost a playoff game.
Golly.
Year 3. And I mean, I will take the Chiefs. But like I've said all year, the Bills can beat them. They can beat them. I have not felt – last year, I didn't think any team could beat the Chiefs. I know they had not had a great season, but because it was Lamar who was on the team that was on even footing, I thought Lamar's not beating Mahomes in a playoff game. Now I think these two teams are pretty even. Buffalo runs the ball better. Kansas City probably has a little bit better defense, even though they've been shaky in some games. But they're pretty even. I think Josh Allen could beat them. I really do. But I will pick the Chiefs. Obviously, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. I would say something like 25-21, but the 21 points won't be 3 touchdowns. It'll be some weird figuration of 21. It's like, how did they
It's going to be like 3 field
something
goals
like
and the 2-point conversion is in there.
All I know is this.
It's a safety.
This game will come down to the final drive of the game. The final drive of the game will decide who wins. I don't know if that means the last guy who has the ball wins the game, but the game will be within reach for whoever has the ball last.
We're watching these games together next weekend.
This is dangerous for our friendship, by the way.
Yeah, no.
But if he's got the final drive, he's got to leave like less than 7 seconds.
He
can't leave 13. Here's what people don't realize.
I put that on Sean McDermott, by the way. Like, I understand the greatness of Mahomes, but he left Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce uncovered on back-to-back plays. that is on the
Obviously,
coach.
it was
Like, you
egregious.
cannot do that.
That's egregious. But people always talk about the 13 seconds game. Here's what people don't realize. They went down. They called a timeout with 3 seconds left, but they went down with 4 seconds left. He did it in 9 seconds. There was 4 seconds left on the clock. I would.
Josh, if that happened again, Josh Allen might truly shoot Patrick Mahomes. Like, we're going to see him walk to midfield to shake his hands, and he's going to pull out a gun.
Here's what I would love. These two teams have been, all right, we're not going to turn the ball over. We're going to do just enough. They've done that all year.
Fireworks.
And then this game's just 42-38.
Oh, gosh, that would be
we see what we saw
incredible.
last week
That would
with
be
the Commanders
beautiful.
and Lions. All right, what do you think? What do you think about that game? Eagles Commanders. What's y'all's feeling?
Dude, honestly, I don't know. Like, I thought Jayden Daniels was going to lose. Not that Jayden was going to lose, but I thought the Lions were going to beat the Commanders. It's hard to pick against this guy right now. He is hot. And Jalen Hurts is cold.
I think the Eagles have the best 2 through 53 roster in the NFL. I really do. I think we have an advantage at quarterback, and I believe we have an advantage at coach. It's got to be the same formula. Jayden's got to play great. We got to turn him over a few times if we're going to win. I would definitely say the better chance to win is the Eagles, but I actually have more confidence that we're going to beat the Eagles than we did the Lions. I thought there was no chance we beat the Lions.
You know the Eagles.
So
you know them. You don't know the Lions.
And last time, we beat the Eagles at their place late in the season. Now, people say Jayden got hurt in that game, and he did. Jayden, I mean, obviously, that's massive. The Eagles still scored like 35 or something. Eagles still scored crazy. Washington, we scored 38 and turned it over 5 times. I don't even know how that is possible.
33,
to score 38 or whatever we scored and turned it over 5 times. If Jayden can play a clean game, Notre Dame. Touchdown drive, first drive of the game. If Jayden can play a clean game,
pulling for Notre Dame,
we got a chance. But I'll tell you this:
that's
Sam
big.
Cosmi, our right guard, tore his ACL, and we got to deal with Jalen Carter. Yeah. I don't love it. I don't love it.
I saw a meme on Twitter, and it was like the Eagles get like the top, like the domino effect, and like there's a huge domino at the end. And the huge domino at the end said Eagles getting a steal in the NFL draft, and the little domino at the very end was Georgia players having a speeding problem.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I could see that being a problem. And like if we win, like we beat the Lions, and it was a pretty big indictment on Jared Goff. If we win this game, it's a huge indictment on Jalen Hurts. The only way we win is if they turn it over a few times, and that's probably going to be on Hurts.
Why can't it be a celebration of Jayden Daniels? Why can't it be he's elevating himself?
It will be. No, it will be. It will be. But people will say, these guys aren't in the same class.
That's true.
That's what they'll say. Because
the teams
if he
aren't
loses
the same
with
class.
that roster, if he loses with that roster at home versus this roster on the road, I mean, that's like, ugh.
That's like you're not good enough.
I think the only way we win is if Jalen turns it over a lot, or if Nick Sirianni makes an egregious error,
it's very
which
possible.
I do not take off the board. He worries me, dude.
He
worries me.
Again, I want the narrative that will come with Jayden Daniels making the Super Bowl in his rookie year. I want it for the content. Dude. I want it for the NFL. I want it for the storylines. I want it for Landon Davis. But I don't think I can in good conscience. Here's the thing. The Eagles have the advantage on both lines, their defensive line versus Washington's offensive line, their offensive line versus Washington's defensive line. And I think that even though Jayden is better than Jalen, and Jalen Hurts is banged up going in this game, I truly believe they can hand the ball to Saquon Barkley 35 times, throw for 100 yards, and win. And I think you can, they lost 36-33 or whatever the game was. I think they could win this game 18-10. And I don't think
No.
you could, but like I'm saying, they could just possess the ball the entire game.
They're not holding Jayden Daniels to 10 points.
Well, I'm saying you can keep him on the sideline. They have the roster makeup to keep him on the sideline.
You're not going to do that.
Yeah, I would guess if I had to pick a score, I would probably say something like 31-23 Eagles would probably be my guess. Something like that.
Are you picking the Eagles, Landon?
If I had to pick, I would pick the Eagles. I mean, they're so much better. These are not evenly matched teams. Like, it's kind of a Cinderella run. We caught the Lions with a banged up defense, and our defense made plays. These are not similar teams. Like, if he wins this game, we got to have real.
No, it would be great. It would be greatness.
We can't. It's impossible. We can't. There's no way we make the Super Bowl. It's impossible. It's impossible. As a Commanders fan, it's not possible.
This is the last chance I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to pick the Commanders. 9 out of 10 times the better quarterback wins. 9 out of 10 times. They got the best quarterback, dude. And this is also the last time I can pick the Commanders. I like Jayden Daniels a lot. This is the last time I can pick him because if he's facing Allen or Mahomes, I'm not going to pick against either one of those guys. But I can pick him in this one. I'm going to do that.
Can you imagine 4 wins to the Super Bowl?
What? And the way it would have happened. Yes.
It's insane that we're here. It's insane that we're here. He's the greatest rookie quarterback ever. I can't even imagine because the other rookies that have made the conference championship all got carried there. Other than Purdy. Purdy played really well, but he had a great roster. But I mean,
Purdy had CMC,
he's carried this roster.
Yeah,
he's carried this roster.
Like, he is the reason y'all win. He's not part of the reason. He is
the other
reason.
thing too is for some reason De'Ami Brown has been great in both playoff games.
Screw De'Ami Brown.
That guy is a scramble.
And Olamide Zaccheaus.
Hey, right here.
He is about as average as you. I think he had 300 yards in the regular season, and he's got like 85 and then 96 yards in his last 2 playoff games.
That's the thing, man. Jayden's doing this with, I mean, Terry and then
screw Terry McLaurin.
Bunch of just, I mean, he's resurrected Zach Ertz's career, and now Olamide Zaccheaus is.
I love the
screw Olamide Zaccheaus.
I saw somebody say in our Mully chat
has the strongest opinion of Zaccheaus of anyone in the world. No one in the world has a strong opinion of Zaccheaus other than him.
I hope his NFL career ends today.
Oh,
and he never gets on another team.
No, I about the Zach Ertz thing. I saw somebody
for context. Olamide Zaccheaus cost me a Mully championship when Terry McLaurin had 1 catch for 5 yards in Week 17. That's why I'm so salty.
Somebody made a comment in our Mully chat about how Zach Ertz revived himself this year in Washington. I just want to be clear.
Jayden.
Zach Ertz is a bum. At this point in his career, he is all busted.
I wouldn't go that
I don't want to hear any arguments to the contrary because they are incorrect.
He was released by the Cardinals last year.
Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury.
We really trust the Cardinals? you trust the Cardinals coaching staff?
The Cardinals,
he got cut because they didn't want him on the roster.
Looked at their roster and said,
they don't want him to be the number 2 tight end on the roster and pay him the minimum because contract is not a thing here.
Also,
but I don't want to hear any arguments about the Cardinals' decision making. All right,
we've gone long, and I understand that. I've got to say something. When the Bears had the number 1 pick, they did not bring in Jayden Daniels for an interview.
Oh, I knew that. I heard that.
I get it. Caleb was always the pick. He was always going to be the pick. He was number 1, right? And I understand that. You don't bring this guy in for an interview and then he takes the team to the NFC Championship? I don't love it.
That's not a good look.
I don't love it. And I get it. Caleb was always going to be the pick, no matter what the interview was like. But that's almost like GM malpractice. You're not going to bring the guy in for an interview?
Yeah.
Ugh. Washington caught so much flack because they took all 6 quarterbacks out. And
why would you not interview everybody?
People are like, what are they doing? It's like they're trying to
want to get the right one.
What are they doing? This is a big deal. If you pick the wrong one, you know what happened? Everyone gets fired. Everyone's fired if you pick the wrong one.
Yeah.
But whatever.
My gosh, y'all picked the right one.
It seems that way. When the conversation is
and hear me out.
No longer is he as good as Caleb or Drake May. The conversation is now like, are we putting him in Burrow's tier? Like that. It seems like we did all right. It seems like we did all right when that's the conversation.
Yeah. Hear me out. We offer you Michael Penix and Kyle Pitts for Jayden Daniels.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Not in a 1 QB fantasy league.
I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons.
Much less in the NFL. Much less in the NFL. I would say no to that in a 1 QB tight end premium fantasy league. Much less in the NFL.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts is very
let's just do 15 minutes
the pain
on
and
Kyle
suffering
Pitts.
of Kyle Pitts.
I could.
Oh, my God.
All right. We've
It
run
always
long.
comes back to him, doesn't it?
It always, like Thanos, where does that bring you? Back to me. Every time. Anyway, we have run long on this episode. We're at almost an hour and a half, which is crazy. We usually run pretty long on fantasy episodes, like 50 minutes, sometimes a little bit over an hour. We've talked a long time about real life football. That's crazy.
Oh, when I cut myself off, I had way more on the Chiefs and Washington.
I know. Trust me, you're gonna get to say a whole lot more about the Chiefs because next week there's only going to be 2 games to talk about.
This is going to be a big stress on our friendship. Watching this game together Sunday.
We might have to go to 2 separate rooms.
Some could say
whose house are we watching this at?
This might be the last show in the history of.
You might have
be the last episode in the history of the show.
Landon's beaten me 4 times in the Mully playoffs. 4 consecutive years I lost to him. And Josh Allen's my favorite player. Patrick Mahomes is his favorite player. It doesn't work out well. You know what? Screw the Commanders. I hope they lose. You need some pain in your life. You don't have enough.
Oh, yeah. My house is going to be
all
a
right.
chaotic
On that terrible
place
disappointment
next weekend.
It is time to end. We'll see you guys this weekend because I'm going to be up there, so we're going to be recording an episode in person. Happens once, maybe twice a year, so it's exciting. We will see you guys in the next show.